I just ate a dinner that could have fed a family of 4. I am stuffed and ready to get into some fantasy football drafts. I think the first tournament we're going to do, obviously there are a zillion different tournaments you can do on Underdog right now. I think we're going to do the Fast Puppy, $5 buy-in, $1 million prize pool, $200,000 for first. We had a member of the flock win this a few years back, and hopefully I'm able to take it down and get that $200K for first this go around. But first thing is we need a top 6 pick. Bada boom, bada bang. That's exactly how it is done, ladies and gentlemen. You just learned your first lesson in drafting a good fantasy football team this year. You hit enter to get into the draft lobby. As it loads, you let the site know, you let the gods know where you want to be selecting. And I'll tell you right now, if you're on Underdog where you have to start 3 receivers and wide receiver ADP is freaking nuts, you send up a prayer to the gods that you get a top 6 pick so you can start with a wide receiver out the gate or Christian McCaffrey. Now, I will say, if you're in your regular redraft league, pick 7, pick 8. Those are fine selections as well because Breece and Bijan, obviously, in your regular redraft league are going to get pushed up a ton. But nonetheless, we have a bunch of people in with us. Let's go ahead. Let's pull up some of these chats real quick. John, pick 2 in the other draft. I saw JRV in here immediately at pick 7. We got Nick out here with us at pick 6. Dylan says his third ever draft at pick 12. Ryan in here at pick 9. Thank you, everybody, for drafting it. Oh, my gosh. It's not the rarest thing in the world to get Christian McCaffrey at pick 2. But we see Justin Jefferson off the board at 1. The only time you're expecting to get McCaffrey at 2 is if CeeDee Lamb goes at 1. And I do want to remind y'all, I do think it's much easier to start with the wide receiver round 1 in Underdog drafts just because how strong running back values are late and how gross wide receiver values are late. So previous to this, I was actually taking CeeDee Lamb ahead of Christian McCaffrey until the Underdog Pick'ems came out. And then you saw that they had CMC at about 16 total touchdowns, 1,700 total yards. Absolutely nuts, the projections that you have with CMC. And they have to be good projections because you can go with the higher, you can go with the lower. You can do you. So seeing that, it does scare me off where if we were to be severely underweight Christian McCaffrey going into this next season, and all he does is stay healthy, I mean, even if he gets 10% worse, even if he gets 15% worse, what's so funny is say Christian McCaffrey declines by 10% this next season. He's still averaging, I believe he averaged 120 yards per game last year, so he's still averaging 108 total yards per game this season. This currently projects out to be the highest scoring offense in the NFL. So I am ultimately a little concerned. He's a 28-year-old running back. And if you look at a player like CeeDee Lamb just has absolutely zero question marks surrounding his profile. But if I want to have a shot to take down tournaments, I think we do have to mix in some McCaffrey because if he does stay healthy, we are just going to get crushed by the rest of the field if we don't have him. Now, let me see. Jeep Guy says, love that CMC value might be at 4%. It's hilarious that you say 4% because I was legitimately at 3%. I'm sure, maybe you saw the pod yesterday, my guy, which I appreciate you. And we'll talk about your neighbors in a second. But, yeah, let me pull this up. I may be at 4% McCaffrey now. You're right. Which is still about half of the, yeah, I'm probably at 4% CMC because this draft hasn't counted yet. Which is still half your expected ownership where you would expect to be at 8% for pretty much every player. But it is what it is. Ryan out here with us at pick 8. Thank you for drafting with us, my guy. Interesting to see the A.J. Brown pick there. Okay, so let's move this around. I'm going to go with the wide receiver 99% of the time at this pick. When you go Christian McCaffrey in round 1, it does kind of force your hand to go wide receiver here at the 2-3 turn. You can sit here and you can make an argument. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I trust me, I would actually, I'm not going to go Metcalf. I'm going to go Kupp. I would way rather have Kyren Williams over Cooper Kupp this season, and it's not even remotely close. But on Underdog, can't make trades, no waiver wire, no management during the season. You need the wide receiver position to fill out. And when we get on the clock at pick 47, there's a good shot that our options are Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Etienne, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Mark Andrews, or Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown. And I do not want to be the guy having to take Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown at pick 47. So even though I'd rather have Kyren there at the beginning of round 3 than Cooper Kupp, just because I know for a fact I don't want to be drafting the wide receivers later, we're going to go with the wide receiver. And your regular redraft league would be different. Now, Yakub says, round 1, Lamb. Round 2, would you rather have Debo, Evans, or DJ? I'm assuming you mean DJ Moore here. I'm going to go Debo over Evans and DJ because I think if Ayuk stays, Debo Samuel still projects out to be similar to those guys. Whereas if Ayuk does leave, then Debo Samuel's significantly better. Now, we do have to talk about someone that we passed on here. We decided to take Cooper Kupp over Malik Neighbors. A lot of people were very upset about our video earlier today, just in case if you didn't see it. So what I did is I went through and I looked at the lowest scoring offense or 5 lowest scoring offenses every single season over the past 10 years. And I looked at their top wide receiver in fantasy from a half PPR points per game perspective that season. We tracked those 50 wide receiver finishes over the past 10 seasons. And what we found is out of those 50 guys, 2 of them finished as top 12 guys. You had Mike Evans in 2014, Jarvis Landry in 2017. And 0 of them finished as top 10 options. I'm sorry, top 9 options. Which I actually just did the opposite with the very good offenses, and it will blow your freaking mind. Let me pull up these numbers because there's no way that you believe me here until I actually show you the data in the video that I need to record ASAP. And we'll talk about Neighbors a little more in depth here. But as I pull this up, let me remind you, just in case you don't know what we're doing here, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. This is the same site that we showed y'all that you had the Christian McCaffrey pick'ems on as well. But yeah, these are best ball drafts, so there's no time commitment at all during the season. It's how I draft hundreds of teams every offseason. It's how I won $150,000 on Underdog 2 years ago. I'm streaming every single night these drafts, so if you want to hop in with us, you can find that link in the description, comment section, live chat. If you use code FLOCK, you will get my 2024 fantasy football rankings. If you use code FLOCK, you'll get my 2024 fantasy football draft guide, and you will get a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. Forgot that we can actually show that on the screen now. But you do have to be in one of these states if you want to be on Underdog. So bad news is you have to be in one of the states. Good news is it's available in almost every state. It's available in California, available in Texas, available in Florida, available in New York, available in Michigan. You can see the map up there. But okay, we got the stats pulled up. I will go through those in just 1 second, but let me figure out who we're going to be taking here with this pick. Lamar goes, so we're actually going to get Amari before the teardrop happens, and we'd have to consider someone like Hollywood Brown, which there's a 0% chance I'm taking Hollywood Brown at the 4-5 turn. It doesn't matter if I need a receiver or not. And we are in here with the old man wide receiver crew. I mean, the old man team. We have a 28-year-old running back. We have 3 receivers that are going to be in their 30s this season. So we'll go ahead. We'll take McBride. We'll get some youth in. But more importantly, I think it does give us the option to go with Kyler later on. And I do really like Kyler's price point. Okay, but I'm going to... you are not going to believe this. I understand it. But I'm going to show you all the numbers in the video that comes out. I have yet to record the video. I may have a road trip tomorrow, so probably take me a couple days to record the video. May come out over the weekend, something along there. But I've already done the majority of the research. So what I did here is I looked at the wide receivers in the 5 highest scoring offenses in the NFL every season over the past 10 years and the best wide receiver on that team. So yes, even if you had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle or Cooper Kupp and Mike Evans back in the day, and both of them absolutely crushed, We ignored the fact that you had multiple guys in the top 10. We only took the number one score. So the data would be even more skewed if you looked at the fact that wide receiver 2s also finished at the very top for these top offenses. But that's besides the point. So we looked at the 50 wide receiver sample of the 5 best offenses in the NFL every season over the past 10 years, the wide receiver 1. We tracked their fantasy football points per game finish from a half PPR perspective. Let me give some more context to this. In the bad offenses, the bottom 5 offense every year over the past 10 seasons, you had 8 wide receivers finishing inside the top 24. 8 receivers finishing inside the top 24 of those 50 guys that were in the bottom 5 offenses. If you look at the top 5 offenses in the NFL, you had 12 guys finishing inside the top 3. If you draft a wide receiver that's in a bottom 5 offense in the NFL versus the average wide receiver in a bottom 5 offense in the NFL versus the average wide receiver 1 in a top 5 offense in the NFL over the past 10 seasons, you are more likely to get a top 3 finish from the good offense than a top 24 finish from the bad offense. Absolutely nuts. Like, I legitimately cannot believe this data. And for that reason, and I know Vegas sportsbooks are wrong, I understand, and that's what I said in the video. If you think that, oh my gosh, Mason, no, you're crazy. Vegas sportsbooks, they have no idea what they're talking about. I'm telling you right now, Vegas knows way more than I do. They know way more than you do. They know way more than anybody, okay? But the only way that I'm drafting Malik Neighbors at the 2-3 turn, where he has an ADP of 26, is if you think the Giants exceed expectations. If you think the Giants are an above average offense in the NFL this season, then by all means, take them at the 2-3 turn. But I don't know. Now, of course, it's a different conversation in your redraft league, where in your redraft league, if Malik Neighbors goes in round 6, take him. Who gives a crap? But just crazy. We're going to go ahead. We'll take Rome. We're still kind of playing catch-up on receiver. We have our anchor running back with McCaffrey. The question is at 74, is this a spot where we want to grab our 5th receiver, or do we want to pivot over to Kyler Murray? CJ, you know what? I think we are going to pivot over to Kyler. In a ton of spots, I would go ahead. I would take Jordan Addison here, but my Jordan Addison bags are plummeting at the moment. So we will let the dust settle. And I have drafted Addison in some drafts off the live stream today at the 7-8 turn. I just think at the 6-7 turn, it's, for me personally, when I already have a lot of Addison, it's not necessarily needed. Jimothy says, do you think people are overreacting with the Addison situation? I don't know. I thought he was a great price before. The thing is, it doesn't matter if I think Addison is a great or a horrible price. For Addison to continue to fall, it hurts me. For my personal teams, it is a bad thing to see Jordan Addison continue to fall, because that will mean other teams in the same tournament got him at a cheaper price and paired him up with better players than I was able to. So I would love to say, oh, this Jordan Addison situation gives us the perfect opportunity to load the boat and to take as much Jordan Addison as we... No, it's not a good spot for people who have already drafted a lot of Addison. If you haven't drafted a lot of Addison, this could be a phenomenal opportunity. If he's now going at the 7-8 turn and you think he sees no suspension to maybe 4 games maximum, then you could go through, take him at a much cheaper cost, have leverage over the rest of the fields. And I believed he was a great price at wide receiver 39 before the DUI. And now, I mean, if you're getting him at like wide receiver 48, I think it's even better. So, a couple different things. One, I cannot sit here and pretend under any circumstance that Jordan Addison falling down draft boards when I've already drafted him a lot in round 7, or I'm sorry, in round 6, is good in the slightest. It's horrible across the board. For me, that is, because I've already drafted a lot of them. Now, at a certain price, I will step in. I will draft a lot of them in round 8. I'll tell you that. And if you don't have much Jordan Addison and you've drafted a decent amount of teams on Underdog, if I were you, probably try to get some exposure. Okay, we are completely fine pivoting back over to running back here. I mean, we've caught up at wide receiver. We have Mike Evans. We have Cooper Kupp. We have Amari Cooper. We have Rome. We have Kyler and McBride stacked up as well at quarterback and tight ends. So I really like this. Louis says, are you exposed to the weekly drafts? Are you asking if I am doing weekly winners? Personally, I'm not a weekly winners fan. That Underdog tournament, obviously there are a zillion different Underdog tournaments at the moment that anybody can choose from, though, if y'all are interested. Weekly winners, not my cup of tea. I'm going to go ahead and take Tony Pollard here as our RB3. And going back to what we were talking about previously with this data saying like, oh, bottom 5 offenses with running backs are typically disgusting. You should probably be avoiding these guys under certain circumstances. Like when we say that Malik Neighbors is undraftable at the 2-3 turn based off historical data with how bad offenses can't really produce viable or elite ceilings at the wide receiver position, that's applicable at the 2-3 turn. However, when you begin to get to these picks like 98, if we take Tony Pollard and the Titans are bad and Pollard gives us an RB 15 finish, I'm fine with it. I'm chilling. But I figured, let me go back to what we were talking, what were we talking about previously? Oh yeah, so with the weekly winners drafts, I'm not a big weekly winners draft guy. What I've been getting in a ton as of late on Underdog is I've been getting in a lot of the eliminator drafts. So the weekly winners is essentially the 200,000 person tournament, however big it is. I'm probably overestimating the number, but you can look it up. Everybody is in one massive pool in every single week. The highest scoring team, at least last year, wins like 20,000. The second highest scoring team wins like 10,000. And it's a completely different slate every week. So you could have the most garbage team imaginable. And of course, it probably doesn't work out like this, but just hypothetically, you could have a garbage team that scores 0 points for the first 8 weeks. And then in week 9, your team pops off. You have the right stacks. You bet on the right game. And then all of a sudden you win 20,000 off your $15 entry. For me, that's a lot closer to DFS than it is typical just fantasy football drafting. I think best ball is somewhere in the middle between the two. And I know my strengths. I know I'm not going to be good at that. I know I'm not going to be good at weekly winners, so I typically stray away from it. So you all also have, obviously, the regular drafts like the Puppy Tournament, Best Ball Mania. That's where you're drafting against these 11 other guys. And then for weeks 1 through 14, you're in your regular fantasy football league. It's automated scoring. Your starting lineup automatically gets submitted at the end of the week, blah, blah, blah. It's best ball. But it's still representative of a regular fantasy league. You need to score a lot of points in weeks 1 through 14. And then it enters in the fantasy football playoff tournament for weeks 15, 16, 17, where you're going to be put into different brackets like, oh, this is an 18-man pod, and only 2 of the teams are going to advance to the semifinals. And then maybe 2 of the teams are going to advance from the next pod in the semifinals to the finals. But it's still a similar structure to fantasy football at the end of the day. Whereas weekly winners is just so different. I like the eliminator as well, where you're essentially just in a new pod every week, and it's, hey, don't be the lowest scoring team or don't be don't be at the bottom. If you're at the bottom, you get knocked out, you could lose week 1. But as long as you can stay alive, you are in a decent spot. Okay. Steve says, any updates on the Flock Fantasy Open Tournament? No updates on it. I sent it to Underdog last week. Maybe not this past Friday, but the Friday before. But it's for sure happening. I don't have too much information regarding it, but it's happening, my friend. I think we're going to go ahead take Javonte Williams at RB4. Javante's for sure been a faller in these drafts this late. Just in case you haven't noticed. I'm sure you have. And let's see what this next team does. Hartnell says, did you see they added NFL Week 1 pick'ems? I have not seen the pick'ems Week 1. I'm not a big Shakir drafter. The only reason Shakir even has an ADP at 108 is because the Josh Allen team typically takes him. But we need a wide receiver. He does fall 14 picks past ADP. So, I mean, we'll mix them in. I'm not a big Shakir guy. I'm not a big Curtis Samuel guy. I'm going to be drafting Keon Coleman a lot at cost. But going back to what we're talking about with that wide receiver data, if you're in a top 5 offense, like, let me go back to it. It is just, the numbers are freaking insane at wide receiver. And I expected it to be the exact opposite. I expected a running back to be more aligned on the offense that you're in, but it's wide receiver, it's almost everything. So looking at the 50 wide receivers in the sample with the bad offenses versus the sample of 50 receivers in the good offenses over the past 10 seasons. If you were in one of the top 5 offenses your year, out of those 50, 48 of them were top 36 wide receivers in fantasy. 48, that's 96%. Whereas if you look at the bottom 5 offenses in fantasy, only 26 were. So 52%, which is nuts. But it's even crazier if you look at top 24 guys. Out of the 50 wide receiver ones in top 5 offenses over the past 10 seasons, 44 of them made it inside the top 24 finishers that season. Good for an 88% chance that if you are in a top 5 offense in the NFL, you are finishing as a top 24 wide receiver if you're the wide receiver 1 on said team. Whereas if you look at the bottom 5, you had 8 out of 50. Good for a 16% chance. An 88% chance versus a 16% chance. Absolutely nuts. Taylor says, since you started running, are you able to eat junk? I am probably the worst person in the world to ask about food. It's a couple different things. One, I've lifted weights for a very long time. Like, I've lifted weights pretty much every single day since I was maybe 16 or maybe a little bit. Yeah, about 16. I was on the powerlifting team in college. So I've always been, and I played tennis in high school. So I've always eaten a ton, and I was the guy that always had difficulty like putting on weight and keeping weight. Like, I didn't weigh 100 pounds until my freshman year of college. My freshman year of high school. So I'm like naturally super skinny. So I've always eaten really bad. And my issue too is I sit down, and like I said, when I open this live stream, right before this, I eat a meal that would be good for a family of 4, and I just ate it myself. So I've always done that. I justify it more now that I'm running, for sure. And with the triathlon stuff, I tell myself, oh yeah, you deserve it. You can do it. Should I? Probably not. So I don't know if you should listen to me at all about what I would never recommend anybody to eat how I eat. Dowdle versus Marshawn Lloyd here. I don't necessarily have a super big preference between the two. It's going to be the dumbest thing ever, but because this team's old as hell, I kind of just want to get a rookie on here, spice things up, have some youth in the locker room, have some swag walking around. We'll take Marshawn Lloyd. That will be our last running back, however, our 5th RB. And then we took Cole Kmet, so we only had to take 2 tight ends. We already had Rome as well, so we can go through, make the concentrated bet on that Chicago Bears offense. Now, let me see. GBI says, 50 days. Do you prefer off-season or in-season streams? 2 different things here to talk about entirely. 1, love the question, my guy. 2, off-season live streams are 1,000% better than in-season. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I love talking fantasy football. It is my favorite thing in the world. I would not do it. Last year, I streamed for 200 days in a row. And there's no way I could have streamed for 200 days in a row if fantasy football was not like my favorite thing on this planet. I made like 300 videos. I made multiple videos every single day for years and years and years in my college closet with 0 people watching just because I love it so much and just love talking fantasy football. But the in-season, so right now, off-season, phenomenal. I get to talk about whatever I want. I get to talk about what I eat for dinner. I get to bounce in and out of this fantasy football draft. When I feel like there's something worth talking about, I can go through and have a discussion about, say, Malik Neighbors going at the 2-3 turn, whatever it is. I have a lot of flexibility with the streams. There's a reason why I draft on Underdog every single day, even off the live stream. I freaking love drafting on Underdog. Even if they weren't like, the thing is, I don't know if I could ever take another sponsorship on this channel because I like Underdog so much, and I haven't found a platform that I like nearly as much. So off-season streams are perfect for me. I get to talk about what I want. I love drafting on Underdog. It feels more like I'm just hanging out and talking with y'all versus in-season streams. I don't have that flexibility. In-season streams, I'll just be live for 6 hours with people spamming questions at me and me having to talk like an auctioneer going like, oh, thanks, Johnny, for the donation. I would rather have Mike Evans over Chris Godwin this week. Mike Evans had 11 targets last week. Chris Godwin had 8 targets the week prior, blah, blah, blah. It's not nearly as fun as doing these Underdog streams. Like, there's very few things in the world that I like more than being able to stream these Underdog drafts in the offseason. Still like the in-season drafts, but the Underdog streams are, like the draft streams are 10 bajillion times better. We're going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson and Baker Mayfield here at the turn. If you look at Wan'Dale, going back to what we were talking about previously with the Giants and all the bad offenses that we talked about in today's video, okay? Carolina, the Giants, the Patriots, doesn't matter. The entire point of the video was just be realistic with expectations. Wan'Dale Robinson, if we take him here at wide receiver 70 and he turns out to be the wide receiver 40, which is very possible, even if it's a bad offense, it is a phenomenal pick on Underdog. So I'm completely fine taking a Giants receiver, whether it's Neighbors, whether it's Wan'Dale. I just can't take him at the 2-3 turn, if that makes sense. So I'm actually drafting a decent amount of Wan'Dale. I took a ton of Wan'Dale in their 18th round last season. I wish I could have known to take Puka instead. And then Baker Mayfield at 170 makes a lot of sense where we have Mike Evans on this team. So hopefully we can get a Tampa Spike Week when we need it. And we can still look to go with a third quarterback for this team because we are only going to go with 2 tight ends with McBride and Kmet. Okay. Now let's move this over. Teresa said we missed a super chat. Frozen Gaming says, in a 12-team 2-keeper league, I have Chase Henry in the first pick. Best available, Saquon and Harrison, who we're going to take. So a lot of people make the mistake, and I made the mistake. I think my first keeper league was either 2013 or 2014. I made the mistake mine was a 5-player keeper league, my first keeper league, of getting so excited thinking that it was similar to Dynasty and almost using Dynasty rankings for my keeper format and thinking long-term. That was back in the day when I was sitting there daydreaming that Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., all these, Brandon Cooks, all these guys were going to be the wide receiver ones in fantasy football for the next decade. Like, I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I can get them all on my 5-player keeper league and mapping out my 5 keepers for the next 10 years. The thing is, in your keeper format, it is just so much more realistic and so much more useful if you just essentially treat it as if it's a redraft league and you just go, who do I want this season? Especially if it's only a 2-player keeper. The more keepers you have, the more you should treat it like a dynasty. If you're keeping 14 guys from a week-to-week perspective, hell yes, you go Harrison. You don't even think twice about it because no matter who you take, obviously they're going to be on your roster for years to come. But in a 2-player keeper, you are always going to have keepers that are available to you. You're never going to have a hard time going like, oh, I don't know who projects out nicely this season or for the long term here, who should I go with? So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and I know it's crazy, but I am probably going to keep Saquon Barkley over Harrison unless it's a situation where you can start 5 or more receivers. I think the vast majority of people would tell you to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. However, my thing is I just think a 2-player keeper league should be treated as if it's just a regular redraft format. Mustafa says, will we ever see a redraft stream? Funny that you bring this up, my friend, because we made a poster for this. Okay. Let me see if we can get this going. Zoom in on that bad boy, ladies and gentlemen. Flock draft week. It is officially locked and loaded. August 19th through August 22nd. Maybe through the 23rd. I don't know. But nonetheless, the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd. We are going to have the Flock League happening. Should be a ton of fun. It's going to be a redraft league that I probably care more about than any redraft league I have ever done. And I will be talking about that redraft team all year. I'll be living and dying by that team. And also, we're going to have a bunch of really cool in-person videos coming. Bunch of cool in-person live streams where we're going to be doing underdog drafts where you don't just have to listen to me ramble about crap. I mean, there'll be other people in the room as well talking about stuff. So it is going to be really cool. Ross Cred asking if there's money on the line. So there'll, I'm sure, be money on the line, but I honestly don't even. The thing is, there's so much money on the line in these underdog drafts for me that money's like not necessarily a super motivating thing for me in that redraft league. What we were talking about is trying to come up with just essentially something similar to the league on FX, where there's a really bad punishment for getting last place. I've seen funny things on like Instagram Reels that like you have to enter in a wrestling tournament in a big singlet that says fantasy football sucks. I suck at fantasy football. Enter in a bodybuilding show, enter into a ballet and have to do a ballet performance. So, I mean, there are a bunch of really funny punishments we've been able to come up with. I haven't been able to, let me know. Okay, real quick, have we hit 300 likes on the stream? Are we firing up another draft after this? Go down there, drop a like if you have not done so already. And second thing is, let me know if you have an idea centering around what the, not punishment should be, but instead, what should the reward of winning this league be? What should the reward be? We're going to go Javon Baker. So I took Drake May with our 17th round pick, just going, we need a QB3. The New England Patriots offense projects out to be horrible, but he's a rookie, so you have a super wide range of outcomes. And also, when we take Drake May, I know typically we can go Kendrick Bourne in the last round. Wasn't expecting Baker to fall to us at 215. I really haven't taken him at all this season, but here seems like a reasonable price point. But looks like we didn't hit 300 likes on the stream. I am sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. Hope I can. Just no promises. But worst case scenario. Okay. People saying that we actually had 300 likes. Okay. We'll fire up another draft for y'all, ladies and gentlemen. Even though when you start doing the outro, everybody leaves anyway. We'll go ahead. We'll just get another puppy tournament going. Fast puppy. $5 buy-in. We in, ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted to get a $1 million prize pool. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. For sure be live every day afterwards. But interesting spot. We just picked it too. We just took Christian McCaffrey for the sake of trying something new. Hell, it's a $5 buy-in. Might as well mix it up. Should we go ahead and take CeeDee Lamb here? JRV back in this draft with us at 2. Julius in here at 3. Kittamore says reward has to be a custom jersey. Yeah, we for sure need to have. That's a good idea. I for sure need to get a massive trophy for the winner of the league. We should do like the Sacco and the Shiva, of course. So we should get a trophy for last place as a sign of disgrace, a trophy for first place. So the thing is, there'll be 7 or 8. We may have a special guest joining us in the league that's not in the poster that I showed y'all. But at the very minimum, there are going to be 7 fantasy football YouTubers in the league. Then we have 3 developers on flockfantasy.com that are going to be in the league as well. And my main editor is going to be in the league. So we're going to make a ton of content for the league on the Flock League YouTube channel. But that's strictly just going to be like the fantasy football creators. Maybe if a developer, maybe if my editor actually wins the league, we'll force them to come on for one of the videos and talk a little bit. But it will be very interesting. What I'm hoping, what obviously we need is we need me to win the league. Who are we kidding here? I need to take down this league. But if it's not me, should be another creator on the site. Hopefully. But let me send out the A-Rods is ready for the channel. Appreciate you, my friend. I'm sure you're already subscribed, but I just sent out the link in the live chat as well for anybody who's possibly not already subscribed. And there's 0 videos on the channel so far. We're going to put out a bunch of stuff. It'll be a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff, personality stuff, entertainment stuff. It won't be like, oh, draft these 5 running backs this season. Nick says, what's the league format going to be? This is actually a great question, my friend. Is it something I need to figure out with them? And I think that could be our first video, just figuring that out. Truth, love the idea. Winner picks / sleeps with the league mate's girlfriend. I'll run it by the guys. I'm assuming it's going to be a no-go. But no idea is a bad idea, my friend. But league format, I'm thinking they'll probably want it to be super flex, but I don't think so. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flex spots. I almost want to include a kicker defense just because I have not played in and I know y'all are going to hate me for this, but I haven't played in a league with the kicker since 2017. So when people ask us kicker questions in the live stream, I'm very honest with y'all. I tell you, I haven't played in a league since 2017. I can't answer any questions about kickers. But it would be nice to have at least an understanding of what's going on. An understanding of, is if you ask me on a regular season, name one of the 3 kickers that's currently at the top of fantasy football scoring and kickers, I would have literally 0 clue. I would just guess Justin Tucker every single time. Ross Cred says, I changed my league's kicker to simply 1 and 3. I actually like that. Eli says, future kicker rankings video. Would be hilarious, and I could possibly try, my friend. We're going to go Devonta Smith and Stephon Diggs. Do I have Stephon Diggs ranked significantly ahead of Neighbors, Metcalf, Kupp, Moore, Pittman? No. But just trying to have a unique pairing here at pick 1. Stephon Diggs pretty much only goes in the middle of round 3 to the end of round 3 at the very latest, the beginning of round 4. So there aren't going to be too many Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs pairings. There aren't going to be too many Devonta Smith, Stephon Diggs pairings. Full transparency, what I would way rather have here is I would way rather have Kyren Williams round 3, and we can go Kyren Williams in round 3 whenever we don't go Christian McCaffrey round 1. But when you go CMC round 1, it's just going to be so hard to catch up at at wide receiver. And we got lucky in the last draft to get Amari falling to us at the end of the 4th. I don't know if that's going to happen this one. This one, it may be like we end up taking Patrick Mahomes and Mark Andrews here at 48, 49. We may not have the option to go wide receiver because I'm not taking Terry McLaurin over those guys. Okay. Smiley face asking, are Metcalf and JSN good value with the new OC? So obviously there's a lot of conversation around the changing coaching staff in Seattle, maybe making this a little more of a friendly passing attack where you actually do see some passing volume here for the Seattle Seahawks. You see a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. Maybe that boosts JSN's overall target share and just route participation in this offense. My thing here is DK Metcalf has had one season where he's finished higher than the wide receiver 20. 1 year of his entire NFL career. That includes 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. He's going to year 6. He has one season as a top 20 wide receiver finish. Where do you have to draft DK Metcalf at the moment? I think he's going about wide receiver 19. So people are already drafting DK Metcalf with the expectation that he is better than he has been. People are already expecting Metcalf to improve this next season. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 2 separate discussions to have. One, his overall ranking. If you look at JSN's overall ranking, or specifically in underdog drafts, he goes round 7 as potentially the 2nd target, potentially the 3rd target, we don't know, in Seattle. Round 7 in comparison to some of the running backs that are there does seem aggressive, but that's not JSN's. It's not people being too excited about JSN. It's just wide receiver in the middle rounds on underdog getting steamed up too much. Because if you instead look at JSN's positional rank, or I believe JSN's going as the wide receiver 44, 45, 46. Let me pull this up. Jackson Smith-Njigba going as the wide receiver 46. That, in my mind, completely fair price tag. So if I was like in my ESPN draft and I could get Jackson Smith-Njigba around 10, hell yes, sign me up for it. Even if he had a really bad rookie season, I really liked him as a prospect. Maybe the changing coaching staff boost what his expectations are this next season. If I'm in an underdog draft and I really need a wide receiver and I'm still fine going with the one in around 7, yeah, I'll take JSN. But the thing is, it's not a secret to anybody. It's not a secret that the coaching staff has changed in Seattle and everybody is screaming that it's going to be way better for Metcalf and JSN. It's kind of already priced into the market. I think it's a very interesting discussion to have. Well, I already told you exactly what was going to happen here. We are going to go Mahomes and Andrews. I wish JRV would have given us Lamar. I wish we could have paired up Lamar and Andrews. My guy, you caused this on yourself. This not my fault, your fault. Look in the mirror. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to go through and take Terry McLaurin here, which is why we reached on Stephon Diggs, which is why we took Devonta Smith at the 2-3 turn, just so I didn't absolutely hate myself for not taking a wide receiver 48, 49. Okay. Now, let me move this over and see. Ross Craig says, I like JSN. Frank says, DK just doesn't get enough targets. Yeah, I really like JSN as a prospect. And, we went through and we looked at this in a video a couple days ago where we titled it, History Says These Players have no hope. Something like that. History says these players are wasted picks. Because if you look at the historical data for Jackson Smith-Njigba, for based off what he did his rookie season, JSN is currently on the path to be a bust. Am I saying that he is for sure going to be a bust at the NFL level? No, I'm not saying that. I think he has the upside to turn it around. But the current path he is on is to be a bust, and that is the median expectation. Now, based off his situation changing a bit, I think he definitely can improve. Like I said, I liked him as a prospect. And based off his price at wide receiver 46, I'm 100% willing to take a shot on him. But it's because he's going wide receiver 46. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry that we stole Andrews too. We stole Andrews from JRV. Didn't let him get Lamar Andrews. My man, I would say you stole Lamar from me. I said it earlier in the live stream that we were going to go. Of course, I had no idea who exactly we were going with. I know typically here at the 4-5 turn, based off the positionals that we have, typically I want an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. Let me just run through and show you exactly what I do here at the 4-5 turn more times than not. So picks like 46 through 50, like 3, let's call it. The guys that I'm targeting Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, and Trey McBride if he falls, Pacheco or Etienne if they fall. But very rarely am I ever going to go with Jaden Reed here. Very rarely am I going to go Hollywood Brown. Very rarely am I ever going to go Terry McLaurin. Whenever I go running back round 1, aka I have Christian McCaffrey, that's a build that I'm typically not going to go Josh Jacobs. Typically, if I already started CMC at 1, I feel like we already have enough running back points locked up where we're going to find running backs later on that we like as well. Where there I can afford to go ahead and instead we can afford the elite quarterback and the elite tight end. However, say I start out with 3 wide receivers in a row, I go Lamb, Evans, and Cooper Kupp. If I go Lamb, Evans, Cooper Kupp, then there at the 4-5 turn, I'm way more likely to take Josh Jacobs. I'll go with like Lamar and Jacobs, or Mahomes and Jacobs, or McBride and Jacobs, or Andrews and Jacobs. Some combination of those 2 guys. But like we said, where we have CMC, I'm a little more likely to just go with the elite quarterback and the elite tight end because I don't feel like we have to chase running back points. Now, we are going to go ahead. We're going to take Ladd McConkey as well as Brian Thomas. We're going to take multiple rookie receivers here. Deontay Johnson was someone that we drafted a lot at the end of round 7. Going back to our discussion previously about just realistic expectations for wide receivers in horrendous offenses, I think that you're okay to take Deontay Johnson in general. I just think that you should probably be realistic on where you're taking him. Like Leggett, fine price point. And like I said, you can't I'm not scratching off every wide receiver that's in those offenses that are projecting out to be at the bottom of the league because 1, the offense may be better than Vegas currently projects. 2, the wide receiver still can finish as like the wide receiver 24. It's possible. But I just don't want to be drafting them at like the wide receiver 24. And then the only way that they exceed expectations is if the offense is a lot better than people expect. Like I'd rather draft someone where if the offense just does what it's projected to do, the player could already crush. Okay. So yeah, we're going to go Ladd and Brian Thomas. I think both guys are in good offenses. I think both guys have interesting quarterbacks we can target later on. I will say for sure what we are hoping for is to get Xavier Worthy. Worthy made it to 69. Would have been great if he made it 3 more picks. Now, we did win $150,000 on Underdog with an unstacked Patrick Mahomes back in the day. So, I mean, actually, I think in that tournament we won $100,000. But on the whole, that year, our most drafted quarterback and our, I want to say, second most drafted player was Patrick Mahomes at the 4-5 turn. And based off the way that draft boards were and the fact that I hated Sky Moore's price, I really wasn't drafting too many Chiefs. Just off the thought process that in Kansas City, you can see 12 skill positional guys touch the ball any given week. Okay. Soup says, hey, Mason, 16-team full PBR home league. Interesting spot here. So 16-team league, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, no flex. You would assume, okay, 16-team league, this is going to get very deep. We need to go through and we need to prioritize depth, yada, yada, yada. But then you do the math, and let's pull this up. 16 teams with the total starting lineup of 6 guys, starting 96 players there from week-to-week perspective. Whereas if you compare like a typical 12-team league where you start 2 flexes or 3 wide receivers in a flex, you have your quarterback, your 2 running backs, your 3 receivers, your tight end, your flex. It's 8. It's 96. So it's going to be very interesting in the 16-team format with no flex and only 2 wide receivers. You are still starting the same amount of skill positional players that you would be in like an underdog draft here, or just a regular redraft league where you have 2 wide receivers and 2 flexes, but a 12-team format. So the depth isn't actually any more important on the whole. But what is super interesting is if you break down the math of where points are going to come from, you're having a lineup where you only start a total of 6 guys. Quarterback's going to make up 1 out of 6 of your starting lineup requirements from a week-to-week perspective. We should expect the median QB1 or an elite quarterback 1 to be putting up 23, 24 points per game. In comparison to wide receiver, maybe you're expecting 16 points per game. Tight end, obviously, way less. So if you're looking at quarterback output in that league, you should expect probably 25 to 30% of your weekly output just coming from a quarterback if you can get an elite level guy. So with quarterback making up such a high percentage of your starting lineup output, depth not necessarily mattering that much because you don't have any flex spots. You only start 2 receivers. I would personally try to grab an elite quarterback, and I would probably try to get a pair of solid running backs at the very top and almost disregard wide receiver depth, to be honest with you. It'd be very different if it was like a league where you had 2 flex spots as well and it was a full PPR league. There I'd go, 16-team league. We can start up to 4 receivers. Depth's going to matter a lot. Let's hammer in wide receiver throughout. But in a league where you only start 2 receivers, 0 flexes, even if it's a 16-team format, get yourself an elite quarterback and get yourself a couple top-end running backs. Don't go 0 RB on that team. The only way you're going 0 RB is if like benches are extremely shallow and you're going to be able to work the waiver wire like a madman, and you go with an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. But don't go 0 RB stacking wide receivers in a league where you can only start 2 at the very most. Okay. Lawrence goes 110. Purdy goes 107. With this team, it would have been a dream to get either quarterback making it to us 120, just not realistic. Ian says, Mason, can you wish Matthew and Andrew a safe trip from Fort Lauderdale back to Reno tomorrow? Say they're awesome at football and basketball. Okay. 2 different things. One, when I get these messages, I'm always concerned that I'm about to say something bad that I don't understand why it's bad or blah, blah, blah. Or 2, it's just a weird message in general. But I'll abide. Just everybody know. If I say something that was bad that I didn't understand the context of, I don't know what I'm saying. But Matthew, Andrew, safe trip back from Fort Lauderdale to Reno tomorrow. You all are great football and basketball players. Not as good as yours truly, but you're all right. Okay. Now, let's move this back over. So in the last round, we went Zach Moss, Tyler Lockett, stay in balance, letting ourselves really do whatever we want at 120, 121. I'm not really going to be taking any A.D. Mitchell here. I think we go Blake Corum and Jerry Jeudy. Thinking about the potential quarterback stacks that we could have later, we could go Deshaun, pair up Deshaun Jeudy. We could go Herbert, pair up Ladd Herbert. We could go Geno, pair up Lockett Geno. And now we can go Watson, pair up Jeudy Watson. So I think it gives us flexibility. It balances us out where I think at the end of the offseason, if Kyron remains a mid-round 3 pick, Kyron will probably be my most drafted guy. And I think Blake Corum going to pick 120 is very reasonable considering the fact that there are only 2 guys in this backfield. There's not a third running back you have to worry about. So maybe we take a decent amount of Blake Corum and we go, okay, even if Kyron turns out to be a dud, maybe we can not be completely dead. Vinny says, I bet they can't compete with Mason in the French pickup basketball. No shot, my guy. No shot. I mean, the ferocity, if that's a word, that I had in that league. I was averaging probably, I mean, I know this isn't going to sound real, but you got to trust me on this. 15 offensive boards. I mean, if we're going to make it from a per 48-minute perspective, probably, 15 offensive boards per 48 minutes. Absurd stats. Now, also from a per 48-minute perspective, let me think about how many points we were averaging. Let me write this down. I have to do some math here. I think the game lasted about maybe 15 minutes. So you do 15 divided by 48, multiply by the amount of points we scored, carry the 0. We were averaging about 0 points per 48 minutes, but the effort was off the charts. The effort was insane. Okay. Now, let's move this over. So we are still only going to go 3 running backs. More likely than not, only going to go 2 QBs or 2 tight ends. Definitely not going to go with 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends with this team. Loop says, when is this year's 24-hour live stream? You got to do it. If I were to stream again for 24 hours, I would be bald. I'm already balding now. I try my best to hide it to the very best of my ability. Not good at it. Hopefully we get better. But we're going to go Dowdle, and then we're going to go Luke Musgrave and call it a day at tight end. Ooh, shoot. Did we not take him? But if I were to do a 24-hour live stream, by the end of it, it maybe wouldn't happen during the stream. But after I went to sleep and woke up, I would look like Joe Rogan. At least from the eyebrows up. So, yeah. At this point in my life, my friend, I don't know if my body can handle another 24-hour live stream. I was a young buck back in the day where I could do it. I think we said previously that if we have something like ridiculous happen, or if I hit like 300,000 subscribers before the season starts, we'll make that the goal. If I hit 300,000 subs before the season starts, that's 50 days. I will do a 24-hour stream, but I'm going to tell you one thing. There's a 0% chance that happens. Maybe there's a 1% chance. And the 1% chance is, since we started uploading YouTube shorts, we get a few shorts that pop off, and we get like YouTube short subscribers, which don't even really matter, to be honest. But it is what it is. Nick says, thank God Mason's balding. I was convinced my girl was going to leave me for him after watching so many streams. You're lucky, my guy. You are. It was right there. It was right there. We actually were on a date the other night. I wore a hat out, of course. She forced me to take it out. Take it off. Not take it out. That was no, I did not intend to say that. Forced me to take the hat off. Saw the hairline and went, yeah, I thought this would be an upgrade over Nick, but no, I'm going back. I can't do this. And that was that, my friend. So Cousins makes it all the way back to 156. Geno goes 149 by Kale. What's the Geno ADP? Did I just fumble by not taking Geno here? No, Geno ADP 167 goes 149. So yeah, the expectation should have been that if we were going to go Geno, we got him at the 14-15 turn. But it is what it is. Raphael says, I'm Mexican and have 1,000 cousins. You're getting a 300K. Appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate it. Okay. Vinny says, since you like YouTube Shorts, Mason, I recommend Lauren Jumps. I think you'd appreciate the content. I'll look this up right now, my friend. I will say I don't like YouTube Shorts. Instagram Reels, phenomenal. The Instagram algorithm has me down to a T. But this girl does jump rope, 1.39 million. Dear God. Looks like I got to start jumping rope. Okay. Now let's move this over. Yeah. YouTube Shorts, honestly, not good. Instagram Reels, dear God. They have that algorithm dialed in for me. Yeah, sucks to be us. We kind of whiff on quarterback here. We are going to go Roman Wilson for sure with one of these picks. We need a receiver. Going Roman Wilson gives us a Russ stack later on as well. And then outside of that, no, I don't want to go Bateman. We're going to have a panic Michael Wilson pick. We talk about correlation. We talk about how it matters. What I don't hear anybody talk about is how you should be pairing up names and correlating names. We go R. Wilson, M. Wilson. It's a sign from the gods. Really, me sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, this is my honest thought. Okay, Troy Franklin makes sense here. We go Troy Franklin. We can get Bo Nix later on. And then I look at our squad and I go, well, we have Roman Wilson. We have Blake Corum. We have Brian Thomas. We have Ladd McConkey. We have 4 rookies already. If we go Troy Franklin, we're bringing in the 5th rookie. And if we're taking Troy Franklin specifically for the stack so we can get Bo Nix later on, we're setting ourselves up for the 6th rookie. Do we want 6 rookies on this team? Probably not. Nick says, the video some people make off of Reels and Shorts is insane. It makes me feel dumb. Like, how could I not have thought of that? Let me pull this up, my guy. I will, here's a big reveal. You know how YouTubers, when they reveal how much money they have, for whatever reason, always goes viral on YouTube? I will let you in behind the curtain. Let me pull up a YouTube short for us. The best short that we've had on this channel. We had a YouTube Shorts channel that wasn't that bad. God dang, we used to pop off here. Oh my gosh. Here's me realizing that we used to be way bigger than we are now. Our most viral YouTube short goes the most viral because here's what happens with YouTube Shorts. You put out a bunch of predictions. Whichever one does not become correct goes viral after it's no longer correct because of all the engagement people have with it calling you a clown. So our most viral YouTube short is titled, ready for it, Trey Lance is a starting quarterback. It is beautiful. Trey Lance is a starting QB. It has 168,000 views. 168,000 views. Take a guess on how much money it made. And to be honest with you, I don't care at all about how much money YouTube Shorts makes. The goal of YouTube Shorts would be, oh, okay, maybe someone new finds us. Yes. His time will come. His time will come. Maybe it has aged poorly. I didn't say Trey Lance will be a starting quarterback in 2023. I said Trey Lance will be a starting quarterback, all right? Give me some time. Give me some time. He's still in the league. 50 cents, 12. No, y'all are off. It made $20. 168,000 made $20. Where? Just because y'all made it to the end of the live stream, I'll fill you in on this too. Probably should not be saying this, but it is what it is. Let me go to a video that had a decent amount of views last week. Will it show me on this? I promise you I'm trying to find. I know it will tell me on a video how much money it made. Okay, here. where a full-length video last week that has almost 40,000 views made like $300. So if you want to sit there and do the math between how that works out, you can. I don't care too much. Will Panic go Khalil Herbert? What were we saying we were going to do at quarterback? We're going to go Russ, pair up with Roman. All our other QB stacks completely crashed and burned. So when your QB stacks crash and burn, you all of a sudden have to be taking shots at guys that have rushing upside. Daniel Jones has some rushing upside. And then our last pick will be either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. But main thing is, this draft, we don't get Geno falling to us when we needed him. We don't get Herbert falling to us. We don't get Lawrence falling to us. We don't get Purdy falling. None of the quarterbacks that we had set up actually made it back. But yeah, got some benefit. I mean, Deshaun Watson goes one pick before us. You get some benefits of live streaming. You get some drawbacks. Getting sniped on your stacks is a little bit of drawback. But I think that's all I have for you. Definitely appreciate you hanging out with me, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. Will for sure be live every day after, though. But thank you again for everything. Really do appreciate you, and hope we get to see you out tomorrow.